Am I the a-hole for making my brother's family homeless, especially because he has a small child and a soon-to-be-born baby? Okay, so my sister-in-law and brother will be staying at mine and my wife's house for a few months as they are both out of jobs, and sister-in-law is 7 months pregnant. They also have a 6-year-old child, and our house was enough to accommodate all of us. The problem is that my sister-in-law is a not-so-nice person. It is the type who says she's brutally honest, and that if she sees something that doesn't please her, she will make sure everyone knows. I didn't know the extent of it until now when she started to torment my wife. My wife is a very sensitive person. It is also unable to have kids, not because she is infertile, but because the birthing process can prove to be extremely dangerous for her. My sister-in-law found out about it and has made it her life mission to remind my wife how joyful motherhood is, and that giving birth is something that completes every woman, and that every pregnancy is a danger but a risk worth taking. Let me remind you, my wife's mother has died at childbirth, and her aunt has had multiple miscarriages. My wife has asked her to stop, but she says that she is also a resident at our home, and while she is here, she can do what she wants. I've also asked her to not to bother my wife about it, but she won't listen to reason, although she toned it down after my brother asked her. A few days ago, I had come home early from work only to find out that my sister-in-law had held an intervention for my wife with all her mother friends to encourage her to get pregnant. My wife had locked herself in our room and had been crying. I saw red and immediately called my brother and told him I wanted his family out of my house by 10 tonight, and went ahead and packed their stuff around the house myself. I didn't talk to my sister-in-law while she screamed at me, and I just gave her son noise-canceling headphones and left him in the corner room. Brother begged me to let them stay as his part-time job was not paying enough to support all 3 of them, plus the new baby. I told him that I had given sister-in-law many chances, and that my wife will not be disrespected in her own home. They left, and I have found out that they are currently homeless and can barely afford to get a motel for a night. My mother is on my side, but has told me to think about my nephew, who is also suffering a lot as he can't even attend online school. After knowing all this, both me and my wife feel a little guilty as the child was blameless, and the soon-to-be-born one will also have to suffer. So am I the a-hole for making my nephew suffer and problem cause him trauma? I am not at all regretful for kicking my sister-in-law out, but I am worried about my nephew as he has anxiety as well. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You'd majorly be the a-hole if you allowed your horrible sister-in-law in the house and let her most definitely harass and bully your wife. Protecting your wife comes first. Sister-in-law should have thought of that before she acted so horrible. You gave her so many chances. It's her fault they are now in a mess. If Opie is willing, they could offer brother and the child a place to stay. But sister-in-law can go live with one of the women who staged an intervention to coerce a woman to have a child. But only if Mrs. Opie is okay with it. But Opie and wife are not a-holes. Sister-in-law made them homeless. She was an a-hole to the people that were nice enough to let her family stay for free. She's one of those people who thinks that everything should go her way and just her opinion matters. Being brutally honest is just another word for a-hole or boy. Not a-hole. Your mom can house your nephew. Your brother must find a better job and provide for his family. Or they can go live with that lovely mother-in-law of his that thinks that a woman is only complete if she is a mother. She can act like one. Why just him? It seems like the wife has nothing better to do with her time than antagonize people gracious enough to welcome them into their home. Not a-hole. Take in the kid if you want, or mom can take him in. But your sister-in-law was way out of line here. Kudos on not strangling her, honestly. Bluntly, your sister-in-law was encouraging your wife to do some things she knew would be dangerous to her. Your sister-in-law is fine leaving you a widower, so long as your wife is part of her fruity little club. Your wife's mental health must be prioritized, especially after this incident. And unfortunately, your nephew got caught in the crossfire. But remember, all your sister-in-law had to do to not have this happen was knock off her BS. She technically told your wife to end herself, Opie. That's so unacceptable I don't think I have to say anything more. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my half-brother he's not my daughter's father or mine? My half-brother is 19. I'm 26. We share a dad but not a mom. Right after my mom died, Dad had a one-night stand with a woman who is now his wife. My half-brother was the result of that one-night stand, and 2 years later they were not only together, but happily married. They now have 5 kids together, including my half-brother. One thing she and I have in common is the loss of our moms at a very young age. Stepmom was 9, and I had just turned 7 when our respective moms died. So she knew what it was like and she never tried to be my mom. She didn't even try to fill that role for me. She resented her own stepmother for doing it. So we had a very, very casual relationship. I appreciate her so much for that. She also was quick to remind my dad she wasn't my mom when he would call her that to me. I think she knew the best way for me to accept the change, and especially have siblings, would be to never make me feel like she was replacing or taking over where my mom once was. Here's the thing. I had my daughter 16 weeks ago, and I named her after my mom and my husband's mom. Cool. Dad started to say something, but his wife cut him off. But then my half-brother, the oldest of their kids, has been on my case about it. He told me I was rude. He told me that I should have used his mom's name because she's been my mom longer than my birth mom was and all this other crap. I told him to knock it off. His mom told him to knock it off. But then it came for me even harder and told me to change her name and show respect and love to his mom, or else. I told him he's not my daughter's father or mine, so he has no business telling me what to do or deciding what my daughter's name should be. He is pissy, but I'm ignoring him. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You can name your child after whoever the hell you want. The fact that your stepmother seems to also understand this should also give you further comfort in your decision. Your half-brother needs to stay in his lane. That's what's so annoying about it. He's probably even hurting his mother by implying she should have accepted her own stepmother more. Dude needs to step off and save his mother's name for his own future kids should he want that. Not the a-hole. Why do people think naming babies is a committee decision? Not the a-hole. People like this are dumb. Stand your ground. Every time I see these kinds of posts, I can't believe the entitlement of some people. Bunch of clowns. Tell them to push a kid out of their uterus and they can name it whatever the hell they please. Not the a-hole. But I suspect he's getting the attitude from your father, even if your father has a little more wit about him and is keeping his mouth shut, for now. But I wouldn't be surprised if your brother, and maybe your father, started using your stepmom's name, the middle name, instead of your mother's name. So just be prepared for that and have a plan for dealing with it. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to see my stepmother after my dad died? I, 24 female, have two half-siblings, Millie, 32 female, and Tom, 35 male. My parents had an affair. My mom met him on a business trip and he didn't tell her he was actually married with kids until she found out she was pregnant with me. I only really spoke to him twice a year through a 5-minute phone call, and my mom raised me totally by herself. But when I was 15, I lost her. My dad's wife knew about the affair and basically stuck with him anyway because my dad was very, very rich, as in had 4 houses in posh parts of London/Surrey rich. And I was out of sight for the first 15 years of my life. When my mom died, I went to live with them and she made my life hell. She'd make horrible remarks about my appearance, called me bouts of depression because of my loss, attention-seeking. She made sure I was never really alone with my dad, and I was shipped off to boarding school. I was never invited back for Christmas, and I spent most of the summer holidays at a village my boarding school was closest to. It was incredibly lonely, and my dad didn't ever seem to care much about me either. When I got to uni, both of them refused to help me out financially even though they did the same for my siblings. I got through uni by working during the academic year and throughout the holidays. Nobody apart from Tom bothered to show up at my graduation, and he's the only sibling I'm close to. Anyway, about 2 months ago, my dad very suddenly died of a heart attack. Not only was I not invited to the funeral, but Tom told me after while my stepmother was doing her speech, she only mentioned my dad having 2 kids, Millie and Tom. Tom was fuming at her, but she waved it off saying if she'd have mentioned me, she'd have ruined my dad's reputation. A week later, my dad's lawyers told me that my dad had secretly left me shares, some money he'd saved in a life insurance payout he set up when I was born. He left a letter apologizing for being so emotionally distant, that I wished he'd appreciate me more and that he knew the money was never going to replace how lonely I'd felt, but he was hoping it would guarantee me some kind of stability. I've taken the money, and I'm planning on immigrating soon just so I could be on my own and get on with my life. And here's where I made the a-hole. My stepmother never bothered telling me my dad died or anything, but earlier this week, she texted asking if I wanted to have lunch with her because she wanted to talk to me about my dad's will. I texted back saying, "You never made an effort to make me part of the family, and let's be honest, you never will. I never want anything to do with you again, and please don't come running to me about your problems because you're nothing to me." Tom told me she was sobbing at how it was unfair and didn't want to give her a chance. And Millie sent me a text saying I was an a-hole because I was taking advantage of how fragile my stepmother was. Tom's siding with me quietly, but I'm wondering if I've been too harsh to her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If there is something in the will to discuss, then get a copy and work it through the attorney only. There's no need to give this woman a moment of your time. She most likely will be trying to get something from you. Work strictly through the attorney, get everything you were bequeathed, and move on. I actually had a talk with his lawyers because I was worried that if she somehow found out, she'd try and get something out of me. Apparently, when my dad got diagnosed with a heart condition, he told them to make sure this will to me was totally airtight from a legal point of view, and that there wasn't anything massive for me in the will, just that I owned a small share of the houses left, which, to be honest, I'm not interested in anyway. She probably wants to sell 1 or 2 of those houses, would be my guess, and doesn't want to pay you your share. I would make sure you get what you're owed. I'm sorry, this situation is so sucky. Don't engage with her though, stick to your guns. Oh, that would explain it, I guess. I've blocked her from my phone, and I'm getting a new number soon anyway, thankfully. Not today home. She's not your stepmother. She was your father's wife. There is a big difference. You have the information from his will, so you don't need anything else. Grieve for the father you lost and the dad you deserved but never got. My condolences to you for your loss. Thank you. I feel very meh about it, to be honest. It's like hearing about the death of a distant relative you barely knew. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not paying my biological mother's medical bill? Here's a little backstory. My mother was baby-trapped into having me by my father, who was very abusive towards her in many hurtful ways. When my mother had courage to end the relationship, I was around 2 months old. My mother had a strong hatred towards me, most likely because I was her tormentor's baby. She would verbally and mentally mistreat me growing up, and she would take her anger out on me. Not to mention she was a substance user and a strong alcoholic. She is to blame for my traumatic childhood experiences. My mother would always threaten to abandon me, adopt me out, sell me, etc., etc. And when I was 9 years old, she adopted me out, and I had not spoken to her since then. Luckily, when I was 11 years old, my family adopted me. I had lost all contact with my mother and had immigrated out of America and moved to England. There, I had a lovely teenhood and went to therapy to later recover from my past trauma. I went to university to study business, and I earned good money for a 24-year-old. Then my adoptive parents came to talk to me, saying how my mother wants to get to know me and that they had given her my number. I obviously said I wasn't interested because I didn't even know if I had forgiven her. But a few weeks later, I had received a call from someone in a relation of my mother, saying how she has some sort of heart disease and wants to meet me and apologize. After loads of consideration and talks with my family and therapist, I decided to fly out to America and meet her. I arrived at a hospital she was at, and I didn't even know what to say. Someone who I assume is her boyfriend explained to me how she has had heart failure for the past 3 years, and how she has received a heart transplant. The only problem is that they couldn't afford it, and along with her medical bill. Long story short, he asked if I could help pay for it, and how he will pay half of it back after the surgery. I just broke down crying and started screaming and shouting at them out of anger. This resulted in an argument with Amanda and I, and both of us being escorted out of the building. I simply just couldn't believe how they lied to me, saying how she wanted to apologize to me, when she refused to even look or say hi to me. I was so angry that I wasted my money to fly out to America just to be told they needed my money, and how they would only pay half of it back. They didn't even have the courtesy to tell she has heart failure until she had gotten the opportunity to have a heart transplant. Some people are calling me an a-hole because she is my biological mother, and how I should forgive her and stop being as stubborn as I can afford to pay for it, and either way I'll get some money back. Whereas others agree with me and thinks someone else better than her should deserve the heart transplant and think I shouldn't pay for it. Not the a-hole. You owe them nothing. And you don't owe forgiveness to your biological mother who helped trick you into crossing an ocean during a pandemic, just to manipulate you out of money. Cut them all off. Tell your adoptive parents what happened and ask them to never give out your contact information again. She literally threw her kid away at 9 years old. Screw anyone saying to just get over it. I would like to add that biology has little to do with who should be considered family. Family loves and supports one another. When did a biological mother do that? Opie deserved better during childhood. That woman needs to be reminded that she does not deserve the title of mother when she's only concerned about her own self-interests. They misled you to get you to travel a very long ways. You weren't even there when they decided to take on these medical bills, so you have no obligation to pay them. And if you do, I wouldn't count on being paid back. I hope you can make the most of the trip and visit friends in new places. She is a giant a-hole. She didn't raise you, didn't properly care for you, and didn't show you love. You owe her nothing. Block her number and any other number she or her boyfriend call you from. Do not give it another thought. I'm sorry for the pain she has caused you. I'm so glad you have a therapist and a good family to help you through this. Not the a-hole. Just because she was mistreated didn't mean she could inflict it on you. There's literally no justification. She of all people knew how it felt. But worse still, you were a child. She walked into her relationship as an adult. Once she adopted you out, she ceased being your mother legally. There is nothing you owe her. Any friend saying you should pay has to mind their own business and doesn't even understand 1% of the horror you went through. Surround yourself with people who love and support you and cut out the negative. Close this chapter. Change your number. Speak more to your therapist.
Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé that I don't want to take care of her kids? I have been with my fiancée Tina for 9 years now. We are both 34. She has 2 sons with her ex from high school. One is 14 and the other is 12. Both are good kids. I've always been there for them with 0 issues. Tina has always provided for the kids financially and hardly asked me for anything. We always covered the bills 50-50, and I always covered her kids financially when she couldn't, which wasn't often, with no problem. Likewise, if I was ever short on money, she would send me far more than I actually needed and refuse to let me pay her back. Money was never an issue. The issue is time. Well, she just gave birth to my baby 8 months ago. A perfect baby girl who is the absolute apple of my eye. I didn't know I could love this much. The problem is that it's grown increasingly obvious that I just want to spend time with my daughter. I'm barely home as it is. I work 6 days a week. Tina works from home. When I'm home, I literally just want to hang out with my daughter because I'm barely able to. I go to work at 5 a.m. and don't get home until 4:30 to 5 p.m. I only get about 4 hours to hang out a day. I want to scoop my daughter up and just hang out with her. That's it. That's all I want. I'm already missing so much. But Tina's 2 sons, every single day, are asking me as soon as I get home to hang out with them, to go play pass with them, to go to the park with them, to go swimming or fishing or whatever else. And I keep getting irritated because dividing my time and not spending that time with my daughter is physically painful. Well, Tina asked me last night what was going on because she said she can no longer ignore the fact that I'm acting like I hate her sons. I told her that I don't hate them at all. I actually love them a great deal. But I can't ignore the fact that I truly have 0 desire to divide my time between them and our daughter, considering our daughter is growing like a weed and I'm already missing everything. She looked extremely hurt and said that her sons keep asking why I don't like them anymore, and she asked that I talk to them. I told her that I would eventually talk to them, but right now it would be nice if she could just explain to them that I'm trying to be a dad. She said, yeah, well, you seem to be forgetting that you played dad for 9 years before you had a baby, and now you're pushing them away like last week's garbage. She was getting snippy with me and visibly irritated at this point, so I just snapped and said, I don't want to freaking take care of your kids right now. She started crying and walked away. I tried apologizing later and she wouldn't speak to me. I tried hugging her and she asked me not to touch her. She slept in the nursery. I went to work this morning. I just got home and they are gone. Most of their stuff is gone. There's a note on the table that says, I will not jeopardize my older kids' mental health for the sake of your feelings. I will bring our daughter by to see you once a day and give you time with her, and then leave again. We can work out a custody agreement later on when she's no longer breastfed. I wish you the best. I'm gutted. I called my buddy just to vent and cry or whatever. And he said, well, isn't this what you wanted? Now you get time with your kid without distractions from kids that aren't yours. I don't know how to feel. I didn't mean I wanted them to leave, and I definitely didn't imply that I didn't love them anymore. She won't speak to me. She said, I will not be answering texts unless they are about our daughter, and has not returned my numerous phone calls to fix this. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You actually wrote this, read it back, and then still had to ask? You're the a-hole. If you really don't see what's wrong with what you did here, I highly recommend some professional help. He even doubled down on a reply. Facepalm. You're the a-hole. Finally, a parent in this sub that will put their children over their terrible, selfish partner. You are getting exactly what you deserve. Now, absolute best case scenario is that when your daughter gets a little older, you'll still have to work, so you'll get those evening hours with just her. 50% of the time. The other you don't get to see her at all. And that's if you get 50-50, which based on your behavior, you won't. I'm not being selfish. I literally just want to spend time with my kid, and everyone is demanding my attention. Welcome to the real world. We have to make balanced choices and don't get everything we want. You set yourself up as a father figure for those boys. It is cruel to them to suddenly stop because something better came along. Now that your own infant is here, you are ignoring them as though the boys are meaningless to you. Tina did exactly the right thing to protect the boys from you. Stop doubting and start apologizing. I have been. I've sent over 30 texts at least, called her 16 times. I've called her mom and sisters even. They won't answer my phone calls either. I know she's reading my texts because I sent one that said I was panicking and just needed to make sure she was fine. And she texted back saying, our daughter is fine. Just shut the heck up with everyone. The fact that you think anyone is going to talk to you is wild. Once your daughter figures out what a POS you are, she'll be gone too. Next story. Am I the a-hole for ending my marriage because I couldn't handle the reality of marriage to a widow with kids? I, 32 male, got married almost 3 years ago. Right now, I'm going through a divorce from my wife, 31 female. My wife was a very young widow with 2 kids when I met her. We dated for almost 2 years before getting engaged, and we were engaged for 5 months before we got married. My wife's kids are 12 and 13 as I'm writing this, and I walked away a little over 6 months ago now. My wife's late husband died suddenly about a year and a half before we met. Looking back, I can see how fast it could all be for the kids. I can see why maybe it was too fast. But I've known people who remarried even faster and were happy in their second marriages, and the kids did fine. So I was running on the belief that this would be the same for us. During the dating period, things went well. I got along well with my wife's kids. They accepted me being around, and we were building a solid relationship. My wife and I enjoyed our time together during that period, and I felt like she was truly committed to me. Even when we began living together, it was good. Only after the wedding did the kids withdraw from me. They were no longer okay with me driving them around. They would reject my offers to help with homework or take them someplace, and would instead say they wanted their mom to do it. Anytime we talked, they would share less about their day with me. If I asked them if they were okay, I got a shrug or a yeah. Before the wedding, they didn't mind saying the good and the bad. They also looked at photos of their dad more, and I noticed some of his stuff appearing around the living area of the house more. My wife's parents commented that the kids hadn't really looked at the photos so frequently or scattered their dad's things around the house like that since he'd been newly gone, for the first 6 months to be more accurate. I never minded having the photos out or even their dad's stuff. When we started living together and moved into the house, I explained they could have photos and his things around the place. They chose to keep them in their rooms at the time, and I could be a little sensitive to what was happening. Maybe I was just never cut out for it, but at times, I felt like they were trying to mark the house as their dad's house. One time I really felt this was when their dad's mug suddenly appeared at the spot at the table I would sit at every time. I'd been sitting there for months, and suddenly his mug was there and it remained there. And whenever we would eat together, they would stare at me to see if I'd sit there or somewhere else. I talked to my wife about it, and she told me I did the right thing by taking another seat. They also started putting photos of when their dad was alive in more prominent positions and would hide ones that included me behind them. I asked one day if they had moved the photos, and they said yeah, that they wanted the photos of their family to be seen. Alongside this, my wife was acting differently. She made less time for us. When we were together, she wasn't as affectionate, and I caught her playing with her first wedding ring, which she wore around her neck, more often. She started calling her late husband's family her in-laws again, but didn't refer to my family that way. Her priority was spending time with her late husband's parents and siblings, and she would choose to spend time with them over mine, even if the kids were not going to be joining us. Often she would forget when we had plans with my family. She really made zero effort with my family, and my family tried to get close to her and the kids. Plans we had discussed before marriage were also changed. We had discussed having kids together and agreed we wanted 1 or 2, but then she said she didn't know after we were married. She wasn't like this with other people. She was just as open and affectionate as before with everyone else. She enjoyed herself, but it was like being reminded of me was a bucket of ice water over her head. I tried to discuss it with her, but she was busy. Or she'd say she had no idea she was doing it and promised to be more conscious, but she wasn't. And then she started talking about her late husband more. I would try to engage with her about him, but she'd carry on without me and almost seemed to dislike me talking about him. In the end, I couldn't do it. I know there are ways to try and make it work, but I didn't feel like anyone else wanted to. So I told my wife I couldn't do it anymore and said I wanted a divorce. She looked startled at first, and then asked me why, and we talked briefly about it before I left the house. We did go to a couple of therapy sessions together after the separation, but she closed down certain topics, which made me more secure in my decision. And her kids did not miss me at all. Apparently, once I was gone, the kids told their aunt that the house felt like a home at last. They didn't say it outright as, now that he's gone, but it was implied. My wife's parents don't understand why I didn't stay and fight for us all to come together and be a family. They said I gave up too fast and that I knew what I was getting into when I married their daughter. My wife has asked for us to work it out, but I don't see a future for us. Does all of this make me the a-hole? It's okay to recognize when a situation isn't working for you, especially when it feels like you're not being prioritized or accepted. If you've given it your best shot and still feel unhappy and unsupported, leaving isn't selfish. It's protecting your own well-being. Thank you. I feel like there are other things I could have done, but each and every one felt like it was just prolonging something that will never work. At least not for us and not right now. No, you are not the a-hole. I honestly believe that she moved on too fast. She was most likely still grieving and hurting from losing her kid's dad. And when she met you, it probably felt really good to not be sad anymore because you made her happy, and so it was like being on a high for her, a whirlwind experience. And she got to forget all about the sadness for a little while. But after the newness of your relationship wore off, that sadness came back. And it didn't help what her kids were doing. They kept reminding her of their dad, which probably made her feel guilty. So then that made it hard for her to be able to fully engage in your relationship. I feel she needs more time to grieve her first marriage before she's ready to move on with somebody else. I'm sorry you are going through this. I can see that being very possible. Maybe she got caught up in everything, and once it was a done deal, it brought her grief back. I just hope all 3 of them can be okay after all of this. We didn't work out, but I hope in the future they can all be happy. Last story. Am I the a-hole for stepping back from my family after being repeatedly excluded by my golden child brother, even when I paid for everything? My father was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer almost 7 years ago. He's 69 now, and despite multiple surgeries and rounds of chemo, he's still here and living a full, productive life. My wife and I suggested hosting a Thanksgiving-style celebration with extended family to honor his journey and give thanks. Once my siblings got involved, things went sideways. I'm the eldest of 4, 39 male. Then there are my brothers, 36 male and 33 male, and our sister, 30 female. My second-born brother Ryan and I have had a lifelong rivalry. We've never gotten along, not as children, not now. He was always our father's favorite, while I was made to feel like the proverbial stepchild. I could never understand it. While we all got the best education money could buy, our home life was chaotic and abusive. I left home after high school to get away from the dysfunction and abuse. My siblings all stayed, endured what I couldn't, and got their degrees in university. I remained the uneducated black sheep of the family. Anyway, when I left, Ryan stepped into the role of man of the house during our parents' brief separation. He's held an unspoken authority over the family dynamic ever since. I've never wished him harm, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's prayed for me to be hit by a bus. No one in my family ever calls him out. It's like everyone tiptoes around him. Back to the celebration. Once we got buy-in from the siblings, Ryan bulldozed the planning. He insisted on dates that would make it impossible for my kids to attend because of school. My wife and I live across the country. Everyone else is local, so we needed coordination. Ryan refused to consider alternative dates, saying he didn't want to risk our father having a health setback. This man was diagnosed 7 years ago and is doing well. That's the whole reason we're celebrating. When my concerns were brushed aside by everyone else, who either ignored me or seemed too afraid to challenge Ryan, I left the WhatsApp group I had created to help plan the function. I told them I'd step aside but was available to assist if needed. No one contacted me except to collect money. I pledged $10,000, same as Ryan, and my other 2 siblings each volunteered $5,000. The day came. Since my wife and I weren't involved in planning, we arrived as guests. The event was disorganized and cheap-looking, nowhere near what $30,000 could or should have produced. Based on the food, decor, and setup, hosted at my parents' house, it honestly looked like the only money that was actually spent came from the $10,000 I sent. The rest? Who knows? There were half-hearted decorations, lackluster catering, barely enough for the people there, and a visible absence of my children. People noticed. A month later, my mother phoned me, upset that I'd left the group and refused to cooperate, again, placing the blame squarely on me. I tried explaining, but she wouldn't hear it. It felt like she was looking for a scapegoat for how mediocre the event turned out to be. To protect our peace, my wife and I have stopped jumping through hoops to attend family events. If something's during school term, we don't rearrange our lives anymore. We show up when we can, without the kids, and still get labeled uncooperative. And this wasn't even the first time. 2 years prior, my mother told me she was gifting the family a vacation through her timeshare. She said she'd asked Ryan to call me and coordinate dates with me. That call never came. A few days later, she phoned me, furious that I hadn't made plans. I told her I'd never heard from Ryan. She wasn't hearing it. I called him, and he casually told me the holiday was already booked for dates in the middle of my kids' school term. His kids are preschoolers, so no issue there. When I asked him to explain this to our mother so she'd understand why we couldn't go, he refused. Again, I was blamed for keeping the kids away and feeding the rivalry. I'm exhausted from being excluded, blamed, and expected to go along with everything. My wife and I have stopped rearranging our lives for family events that disregard us, but I'm questioning if I'm wrong to step back. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Do yourself a favor and take an even bigger step back. You mentioned that your childhood was abusive, but I don't think the abuse ever stopped. They just changed the format. Nothing you've written makes it seem like these people are worth the effort to visit, with or without your children. Your parents were abusive when you were a kid, and they are manipulative and abusive now. Your brother is selfish, and likely a thief, and your other siblings are cowards and complicit in this behavior toward you. I think you'd be better off further limiting contact to emergency situations only. Your parents can focus on their favorite, and he can enjoy that. Without you there to blame, they'll probably turn on your other siblings. Maybe that will help them grow a backbone. It's hard to escape a toxic home. Focus on enjoying the family that you've built instead of giving those miserable people more of your energy. True, your brother's a jerk. Your family enables him, and you're always the one getting screwed over, even when you pay. They treat you like crap, ignore your kids, then blame you? Cut them some slack, but not yourself. You deserve peace.